ladies and gentlemen. It's in those quiet, uncertain moments that a deeper truth begins to rise. Not the kind shouted by the world, but the kind whispered by the soul. Today I want to remind you of something simple but powerful. You are enough, even if it's just you and your faith. There's seasons in life where we feel like we're walking alone. When the noise fades, the crowds disappear, and we're left wondering if who we are is truly enough without the titles, the applause, or the people we thought would always be there. There is a quiet place in the human experience that many people try to avoid. It's called solitude. It's the space between noise and peace, between being surrounded and being still. To some, it feels like a void. To others, it's a sacred ground where real growth begins. In today's world, we're constantly told that we need to be connected, always reachable, always on, always surrounded by people. The idea of being alone is often viewed as a red flag, as if you've failed socially, or as if you're unworthy of attention or affection. But the truth is, solitude is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Real strength. It takes courage to be alone, not the kind of alone that comes from rejection, but the kind you choose intentionally. The kind of alone where you're not avoiding people, you're discovering yourself. You're not hiding, you're healing. You're not disconnected. You're deeply rooted in your own presence, in your own spirit, and maybe even in your connection with something greater than yourself. In silence, you have to face the parts of yourself that you've been too busy to notice. The fears, the insecurities, the wounds you've covered with success or performance. It's in the quiet moments that you start to realize what truly matters to you. Not because it's trending, not because it gets attention, but because it's yours. Silence. Silence doesn't clap for you. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't give standing ovations. It asks questions, deep ones, the kind that echo in your soul and refuse to be ignored. Who are you when no one's watching? What do you believe when no one is there to judge or approve? What makes you come alive, not because someone told you it should, but because it burns inside of you? It takes courage to let go of applause, to walk away from the stage and choose stillness over spotlight. But in that stillness, you gain something applause can never give you: integrity. The kind of integrity that allows you to be the same person in every room, whether or not anyone's watching. The kind that lets you sleep peacefully at night because you're no longer pretending. You're living your truth. And it's not just about finding who you are. It's also about unlearning who you're not. Sometimes the loudest voices in your life aren't applause, they're pressure. They tell you who to be, what to do, how to look, how to live. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life trying to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. But silence gives you space to question those voices. It gives you room to reconnect with your younger self, the version of you who dreamed without limits, who laughed without fear, who was honest before the world taught you to edit yourself. In the silence, you can hear your own voice again, clear and strong. Maybe the world won't always notice the work you do in silence, but you will, and that's enough. Because the most powerful identity is not the one that wins the crowd. It's the one that feels right when you're alone. Many people chase popularity, thinking it will fill the emptiness inside. They think if enough people admire them, follow them, listen to them, or praise them, the emptiness will shrink. But it doesn't. Popularity is loud. It moves fast. It gives you attention, but not direction. It gives you moments, but not meaning. And if you're not grounded in something deeper, the noise of being known can become a distraction that pulls you further away from yourself. Solitude has a way of stripping life down to what actually matters. In the silence, you begin to see more clearly. You start to notice the thoughts you've ignored, the wounds you haven't healed, the dreams you've buried under other people's expectations. And in facing those things, you grow, not just emotionally, but spiritually and mentally. You begin to live with intention instead of distraction. Some of the most powerful people in the world didn't find their strength in crowds. They found it in quiet mornings, in long walks, in deep prayer or meditation. They found it in heartbreak, in stillness, in journaling under moonlight, or staring out of windows with no one around. They didn't need the world to notice them in order to matter. They discovered their value when no one was watching. People often equate strengths with volume, being the loudest in the room, having the most friends, being in constant motion. But real strength is often quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't look for validation or approval. It sits calmly in solitude and finds power there. Because when you're alone, you face the realest version of yourself. There's no one to perform for, no masks to wear, no expectations to meet. It's just you, and that's when you find out what you're really made of. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't reach for your phone or force plans just to feel occupied. Breathe. Be still. Listen. That quiet you're afraid of might just be the place where your greatest strength is waiting to be found. Solitude also teaches boundaries. When you're comfortable being alone, you don't accept just anything to fill the void. You stop entertaining shallow conversations, fake friendships, and surface-level connections. You learn to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You'd rather protect your peace than be surrounded by people who don't see your worth. That kind of self-assurance only comes from solitude, from sitting with yourself long enough to know you deserve more. Most people don't want to be alone because they're afraid of what they'll find in the silence. But those who are brave enough to sit in it, to stay, to lean into that discomfort, they come out stronger, wiser, and more grounded. They know how to comfort themselves. They know how to listen to their own intuition. They don't panic when the phone is quiet or when plans fall through. Why? Because they've already built a home inside themselves. They don't live for the noise, they live from a place of peace. And perhaps most importantly, solitude builds resilience. Because when life gets hard, and it will, you need to be someone who can stand firm when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. You can't always count on others to carry you. Sometimes the only person who can get you through the storm is you. And the version of you that has sat in solitude, learned from it, and grown through it is ready for those moments. There's something deeply human about wanting to feel connected, to be seen, heard, and valued. We crave belonging. It's built into us. That's why friendships, relationships, and social bonds hold such a significant place in our lives. But somewhere along the way, especially in the world we live in today, the focus has shifted. It's no longer just about being connected. It's about being constantly connected. We traded depth for numbers. Instead of a few strong roots, many people are chasing a forest of shallow ties. There's a deep kind of rest that no vacation, no distraction, and no applause can give. It's the kind of rest that doesn't come from escaping the noise, but from no longer being controlled by it. That's what inner peace feels like. And it doesn't come from being known by everyone. It comes from knowing why you're here. Strong relationships are built on time, trust, and truth. They're forged through honest conversations, hard moments, forgiveness, vulnerability, and consistency. You can't fake that kind of connection, and you can't mass produce it either. You build it slowly, patiently, with people who want to grow alongside you, not just benefit from you. Purpose is different. Purpose is quiet. It doesn't always look glamorous, and it doesn't always get celebrated, but it gives you something popularity never can. Peace. Because when you know your purpose, you don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't need to compete, compare, or chase after people's approval. You stop trying to be everywhere, liked by everyone, and everything to everybody. Instead, you focus, you align your choices with what truly matters. You wake up with direction, not pressure. The relationships that matter most, the ones that truly support you, are rarely loud or flashy. They're often quiet, steady, and consistent. These are the people who check in when you go silent. The ones who don't need an occasion to care. The ones who remember the small things. The ones you didn't even realize mattered to you until they brought them up again. They don't just know your name. They know your silence. They know when your "I'm fine" actually means you're not. Having 100 acquaintances may keep you busy, but it won't necessarily make you feel understood. Having 10 people at your birthday doesn't compare to having one person who holds your hand when you're falling apart. Because it's not about how many people are around you. It's about who's willing to walk through the storm with you without asking for anything in return. That's where identity is built. Not on stages, not in applause, not in perfectly curated moments, but in quiet choices. in daily decisions to be honest, to show up, to stay grounded in what matters, even when no one is cheering you on. It's built in solitude, in prayer, in journaling, in late night talks with yourself, in early morning realizations when the world is still asleep. So while the world might keep shouting that more is better, that popularity equals worth, that being busy equals being important, just pause. Listen to your heart, not the noise. Look around at the people who truly care, the ones who stay, the ones who see you. They are your gold. They are your home. They are the proof that when it comes to relationships, quality isn't just better, it's everything. There's a moment in every person's life when the noise dies down. The crowd goes home, the stage lights dim, and the applause fades into the background. What's left in that silence is something most people aren't prepared for, themselves. And in that still, honest place, without the expectations, the praise, or the performance, is where true identity begins to form. Sometimes the most meaningful relationships are the quietest. They don't always post about each other online. They don't need grand gestures to prove their bond. They're just there, unshakable, grounding, real. These are the connections that give you room to be yourself fully, flaws and all. They let you grow, even when that growth is messy and unpredictable. They celebrate your wins, but also hold you steady in your losses. It's easy to become addicted to affirmation. Praise can be powerful. It makes us feel seen, validated, admired. Whether it comes from social media, friends, or even family, applause creates a rush that's hard to ignore. But it also creates a trap, because when the applause becomes the measure of your worth, you start living for others instead of living from within. You start editing your personality to match the room. You shape your dreams to fit someone else's expectations. You wear masks, smile when you want to scream, and say yes when everything inside you is begging you to say no. You begin to confuse being liked with being loved, being followed with being known, and being loud with being real. And slowly, without even realizing it, you lose touch with who you really are. There's something powerful about knowing that even if you only have one or two people in your life that truly get you, that's more than enough. It's not about being popular, it's about being known. Fully, deeply, authentically, because when you find even one person who loves you not despite your scars, but with them, you found something rare. Something priceless. Not everyone who stands beside you is truly with you. There are people who will smile at you in public but disappear when you're in pain. There are circles filled with laughter and selfies but lacking empathy and loyalty. And there are crowds that make you feel lonelier than being completely alone ever could. Quantity might offer temporary validation. It might feel good in the moment to be surrounded by lots of people, to have your phone buzzing with notifications. But when life gets heavy, when your heart breaks, when your world feels uncertain, the noise fades. What's left standing are the people who see you for more than what you give or what you appear to be. The people who show up when it's inconvenient, the ones who love you without conditions or performances. And it's not just about finding who you are. It's also about unlearning who you're not. Sometimes the loudest voices in your life aren't applause, they're pressure. They tell you who to be, what to do, how to look, how to live. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life trying to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. But silence gives you space to question those voices. It gives you room to reconnect with your younger self, the version of you who dreamed without limits, who laughed without fear, who was honest before the world taught you to edit yourself. In the silence, you can hear your own voice again, clear and strong. It takes courage to let go of applause, to walk away from the stage and choose stillness over spotlight. But in that stillness, you gain something applause can never give you. Integrity. The kind of integrity that allows you to be the same person in every room, whether or not anyone's watching. The kind that lets you sleep peacefully at night because you're no longer pretending. You're living your truth. When you're no longer performing for approval, you start to live with intention. You choose things not for recognition, but for meaning. You begin to speak with honesty, not just charm. You start setting boundaries that honor your peace, not ones that maintain your image. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to embrace parts of yourself you once hid. The awkwardness, the vulnerability, the imperfections that make you real. That's where identity is built. Not on stages, not in applause, not in perfectly curated moments, but in quiet choices, in daily decisions to be honest, to show up, to stay grounded in what matters even when no one is cheering you on. It's built in solitude, in prayer, in journaling, in late night talks with yourself, in early morning realizations when the world is, and maybe the world won't always notice the work you do in silence, but you will. And that's enough. Because the most powerful identity is not the one that wins the crowd. It's the one that feels right when you're alone. But the truth is, you are enough. Even when it feels like the world has walked away, even when your phone is silent, even when you're not where you thought you'd be by now, even when you're sitting in the middle of uncertainty with nothing but your faith to hold on to, you are still enough. There's a deep kind of rest that no vacation, no distraction, and no applause can give. It's the kind of rest that doesn't come from escaping the noise, but from no longer being controlled by it. That's what inner peace feels like. And it doesn't come from being known by everyone. It comes from knowing why you're here. Popularity is often built on perception. It can change in a moment. One decision, one opinion, one misunderstanding, and suddenly people turn. But purpose doesn't shift with public opinion. It stays steady, even when things get hard. It keeps you rooted when the surface of life gets messy. And it gives you something to come back to when everything else feels uncertain. When you know your purpose, you can handle being misunderstood. You can handle being overlooked. You can even walk alone for a season because you're no longer driven by the need to be noticed. You're driven by meaning. You're not fueled by the spotlight. You're grounded in your why. That's the kind of clarity that allows you to stand firm when life shakes, when people walk away, or when your path doesn't look like anyone else's. There are people with millions of followers who still feel lost. There are people who are constantly surrounded, constantly praised, constantly seen, yet they feel disconnected and hollow inside. That's because being known by others will never replace being known by yourself. If you don't know why you're here, the crowd won't fix that. If you don't have peace in your purpose, the praise will eventually feel empty. You stop asking, what do people want me to be? And you start asking, what was I created to be? And once that shift happens, everything changes. You live slower, deeper, and more freely. You stop living for the next compliment and you start living for something eternal. You stop trying to impress the world and you start trying to impact it. Many people chase popularity thinking it will fill the emptiness inside. They think if enough people admire them, follow them, listen to them, or praise them, that emptiness will shrink, but it doesn't. Popularity is loud, it moves fast, it gives you attention but not direction. It gives you moments but not meaning. And if you're not grounded in something deeper, the noise of being known can become a distraction that pulls you further away from yourself. There are moments in life when everything feels stripped away. When the noise fades, the crowd disappears, and the people you thought would always be there aren't. It's in those quiet, sometimes painful moments when you're left staring at the ceiling late at night or walking alone through a difficult season that a question begins to echo through your soul. Am I enough? It's a question that creeps in when you feel overlooked, abandoned, or misunderstood. When the relationship ends, when the job is lost, when the dreams don't work out the way you hoped. And especially when the people who used to affirm you are no longer around to say you're doing great or you matter. In those moments, it's easy to feel like something's missing in you, like you're not whole unless someone else says you are. Because when you know your purpose, the noise doesn't distract you and the silence doesn't scare you. You're at peace, not because everyone sees you, but because you finally see yourself. The beauty of purpose is that it doesn't require applause to exist. It just needs honesty. It needs patience. It needs time. And when you walk in it, when you truly align with it, It gives you more than success ever could. It gives you peace of mind, strength in your heart, and quiet confidence in your soul. Inner peace isn't found in being the center of attention. It's found in being centered within yourself. It's knowing that what you're doing, how you're living, and who you're becoming are in alignment with your truth. And that kind of peace, it can't be bought, and it doesn't need to be broadcast. Purpose is different. Purpose is quiet. It doesn't always look glamorous, and it doesn't always get celebrated, but it gives you something popularity never can: peace. Because when you know your purpose, you don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't need to compete, compare, or chase after people's approval. You stop trying to be everywhere, liked by everyone, and everything to everybody. Instead, you focus. You align your choices with what truly matters. You wake up with direction, not pressure. Sometimes it really does feel like all you have left is your faith. That unseen, quiet belief that there's something more. Something holding you, guiding you, carrying you. You might not be able to explain it. You might not feel it all the time, but it's there, in the background of your hardest days, whispering that you are not alone. And maybe that's what this season is about. Maybe it's not about being surrounded, but about being refined. Maybe it's not about being seen, but about being shaped. Maybe it's not about proving anything to anyone, but simply remembering that your worth is not up for debate. You don't need a room full of people to validate your journey. You don't need everyone to understand your path. If you have even a flicker of faith in a heart that keeps showing up, then you are already enough. You begin to see that your strength doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from standing tall even when no one's clapping. Your courage isn't defined by public moments. It's defined by the quiet ones, the ones where you show up, get out of bed, and face another day simply because you believe something better is coming. The ones where you choose to love yourself when no one else seems to be choosing you. Being enough doesn't mean you figured it all out. It doesn't mean you feel confident every day or that you're never afraid. It means that who you are at your core is valuable, worthy, not because of what you do or who you impress, but because of who you are when all the external things fall away. Your worth is not measured by your status, your relationships, your income, or your popularity. It's measured by your heart, your resilience, your faith, and your quiet decision to keep going, even when it would be easier to give up.